My brother ransacked my room and called me a crybaby when I asked him to clean it up. I cost him a job, prevented him from sleeping, and jacked up his phone bill in return. New account for anonymity's sake. Let's set the scene. It's 2010. I had just turned 18 and spent a long summer week away from home enjoying my new freedom to come and go from my parents' house as I pleased. During the week I crashed at friends' houses, went camping with other friends, video games, and all the cigarettes and tobacco products and snacks me and my friends could afford. My addicted brother 27, I'll be referring to him as Mac, who thought he was going to make it big in the music scene because of all the different drugs he was willing to do. He thought being on acid made him play as well as Jimi Hendrix because Hendrix did acid. This is relevant because in one of his many drug-induced rampages, Mac was convinced his USB microphone was in my room. So Mac knocks on the door while I'm away, convinces my dad that he was recording in my room and left it in there. It was never in there. He was never there. My dad was so wrapped around Mac's manipulative finger that he never questioned anything he did. I kept careful inventory of my room because my parents and siblings would steal from me all the time and try to use my bedroom as a storage room for all sorts of things. Thinking back, his excuse was likely just to steal from me like the rest of my family did. Mac goes into my room, tosses the place like out of movie scene during one of his notorious benders. He flips the mattress, empties out every dresser drawer onto the floor. Nothing was left the way I had left it. After all was said and done, I had to spend 3 days cleaning and reorganizing my room because of how badly this tweaker destroyed everything of mine. Things were broken, clothes everywhere, bins and boxes dumped on the floor. It was like a tornado had rampaged through a trailer park in Iowa. My dad had heard all of this going on and did nothing. I showed my dad the mess. Dad just shrugs at me and says he's in his 20s. What do you expect me to do? How about freaking stop his strung-out ass from tossing the place? How about at least calling him to have him clean up his mess? I replied. He practically ignored me and before walking off says he was looking for his microphone and you need to just deal with it. Going to my mom was no different. Mom was so terrorized by him that she wanted no part of anything involving him because she felt unsafe. I can't blame her. He became aggressive when challenged on anything he did wrong. Realizing nothing was going to be done by my parents and this was no matter to call the police over since Dad let him in the house, I did exactly what my dad said and dealt with it. I tried to be diplomatic at first and asked him to come clean up my room. He laughs, makes fun of me, then says I needed my microphone. I asked if he found it. I know he didn't because I knew where it was. Over in my dad's garage. He never answered. I scooped up the microphone to hide it even better. Stuffed into the rafters of an old shed on the outskirts of the property, inside of a large PVC pipe stacked up with other pipes. It's where he went to smoke his M sometimes, so I knew he wouldn't be looking for it there due to the paranoia of being caught by any of us. I gave Mac one final warning text to clean it up or else. He again made fun of me. Crybaby B. How difficult is it to clean your own room? You're just a lazy piece of ass. The last one really torqued me because he was a thief and did everything he could to get out of work. Later that night I decided to do my best Tom Petty impression. I leave my parents' house to sit around a campfire at a friend's house. I waited until I left because then Mac couldn't find me, neither could my dad. I knew my dad was going to simp for him and defend him yet again. I waited until Mac would have been nice and comfortable at home. I lit my first cigarette of the night and promised myself that nothing would stop my ensuing plan until I smoked the whole pack. I had recently learned how to do text bomb. At the time, you could add the same contact into your text app multiple times for a group chat. I believe it was up to 30 on the phone I had. For every one text message I sent him, he received 30 in total. I spent hours sending messages to Mac. If I had a cigarette in my mouth, I was text bombing him. I spent from 9 p.m. until 4 a.m. sending Mac thousands upon thousands of text and picture messages. I have now dropped a Hiroshima-sized text bomb on the fancy BlackBerry he was so proud of buying a week or two before this. For anyone wondering, it was simply a copy and pasted text that said this stops when my room is clean and a picture of the mess he had made. I alternated back and forth. This took very little effort and left him inundated with notifications every 1 to 3 seconds. This effectively attacked his phone into oblivion. It was locked up tighter than New York subway car. He could not call, text, or even open anything on his phone other than my text messages. Dad starts frantically calling me around 1 a.m. I ignored it. Then my mom calls me and leaves a voicemail for me to call him. Worried it's an emergency, I call Dad back. Dad picks up the phone, screaming at me his phone is locked up and he can't use it. You need to stop this right F now. I replied he needs to go and clean up the mess he made of my room right F now or just deal with it like I have to. The argument continues for a while longer. The entire time he's defending Mac tooth and nail. Eventually I broke it to my dad that there was nothing I could do to stop the flow of messages and notifications. He hung up and never brought it up again. After the smoke had cleared, pun intended, I found out Mac had his BlackBerry locked up for 10 days. He wasn't able to respond to a job offer and wasn't smart enough to leave an alternative contact means the job went to someone else by the time Mac was able to return their call. He was still going to be stuck at the job he loathed for a while longer. His phone plan had a monthly text message and data limit that I absolutely destroyed. The month's bill was over $300, I want to say closer to $400. His live-in girlfriend was also P because they had to leave the phone on and plugged into a charger to let it process the messages from my mass messaging campaign the night before. The notifications made the phone unusable, and they were stuck listening to the notification sounds for those 10 days. They tried stuffing it inside of a blanket, but the phone would get too hot and they were worried it would start on fire. On the counter, plugged into an outlet, it sat, keeping them awake and annoyed constantly. Another 2 months roll past. I finally decided he could have his microphone back. Kind of. I took it out of hiding and stuffed it in his keyboard box that was also stored at my parents' house. He found it there not too long after and never even apologized for what he did. Not that I ever expected him to. He even bragged about finally finding it. He never went into my room again without my permission out of fear of his phone being locked up again. Edit, the phone details. Wow, this makes me feel old. At the time, texting cost people to send and receive. I had one of the very first unlimited texting plans because I spent a stupid amount of money on a T-Mobile Sidekick to be able to get that perk. So once the deluge of messages surpassed his text data limit on the BlackBerry, it cost him more and more penalty charges as he received text messages. How it remained locked up was the fact it couldn't be used due to me to overloading the phone itself with messages. The best way I can describe this in more general terms is that the same would happen if you were to try sending a 10,000-page Word document to a home-grade printer and you were forced to let it print all 10,000 pages before you could print anything else, even if you unplugged it and plugged it back in. From the comments, I definitely thought you were going to say you had seen the microphone in your dad's garage, ensuring he searched the space thoroughly. OP, my dad is a hoarder when it comes to his garage and the other outbuildings. He wouldn't have been able to make it look any worse than it already was. It was easy for me to hide in there, away from my family. Rarely did anyone else want to go in it. It was goat paths at best in order to navigate through that dump. I spent a lot of time in there when the weather permitted and my friends were busy. I cleared out a small space and moved an old game console and small TV in. It was the only way I was able to get alone time until I moved out. Story 2, steal my money and gaslight me. Have fun explaining your DVD collection to your girlfriend. Hi again. Since a few of you wanted me to post again, I figured I would give it a go. This one doesn't have quite the same bang for my buck as the last story involving Mac. This one was a few years before Mac got into hard drugs, so he was still a bit more reasonable of a person but still treated everyone like ass. I believe this instance happened 5 years before my last post, but that's not important to this story. For the sake of keeping the story flowing, let's just say I was 13 years old. I'm getting to the age where I'm picking up lawn mowing to earn a few bucks, but without much success. Lo and behold, I finally made my first $50 bill in my life that wasn't given to me for Christmas or my birthday. I earned it. Hell, I would have been lucky to get that much for Christmas or a birthday. My great aunt, one of the few people in my life that I felt actually listened and cared about what I had to say, said I could mow her lawn for $30. She gave me a $20 tip because she didn't have change. At least, that's what she told me. I didn't care. It was $50 whole. I go about my day feeling just like Bart Simpson in the episode with the same storyline. I was ready to find my Quickie Mart, buy the most potent squishy money could get me, all the candy I could eat, and then wander on over to my local strip mall to buy a GameCube game to play. Alas, this all had to wait. 13 years old me had to wait until I could go to the strip mall. The following morning, my mom broke the news that I had to stay at Mac's place for the weekend as no one else would be around due to a family emergency. Great, I'm stuck with my whole brother. What kind of nightmare would I have to endure in what was going to likely be a toxic waste dump zoned as an apartment? To my pleasant surprise, it wasn't all that bad. His girlfriend kept the place tidy and things organized. He let me play his Xbox 360 to keep me occupied. I was having a decent time with Mac. He wasn't being a jack, but to me as he always was. I thought maybe he was finally going to be decent to me. That evening he saw the $50 hanging out of my pocket and managed to talk me into loaning it to him. Said he would be able to give it back to me by Sunday morning. My naive, 13-year-old self believed him. He buttered me up with video games, random snacks, and a bit of soda, then off to fill his gas tank with my 50. I now know he most likely used it to buy W. Sunday morning rolled around and before I went home I asked for the money. Mac said, I need a bit longer but I promise I'll pay you back this week. The same excuse was meaninglessly said that week, and the next week, and then the next. Almost a month later he said to me, I already paid you. I have no idea why you're still asking me. And then hung up the phone. It was clear I was never getting the money. Of course, believing the best in my dad at the time I said to him he is stealing my money. He never paid me and he's telling everyone he already did. He calls Mac, who then tells my dad that I was already paid, spent the money on McDonald's or a video game, and forgot I spent it. The realization I was never getting my money back sunk even deeper into my gut. I decided to move on with my life, not that I have a choice. There's nothing I can do to get it back. I'm 13. He's twice my size and has a car. I have a bike and he lives 10 miles away. More time passes, I forget how long, before Mom says we're going away again and you're staying at your brother's apartment for the night. We'll pick you up before church tomorrow. Great. I'm stuck with him, still angry that I even had to see him again, and now I'm trapped in his apartment for the next 12 to 24 hours. This time Mac is much less accommodating. No video games. Nothing fun. The jerk even makes me cook his dinner for him by promising me Xbox time if I did, to which he immediately goes back on. He tells me instead, just pick a good movie to watch. I start rifling through the DVDs while Mac and girlfriend sit down on the couch behind me to eat the food they just tricked me into making for them. I am furious. I decided to make the best of it and pick out an R-rated action movie I wouldn't be able to watch at home. I open one case and I don't know what it is. It's a movie I had never heard of. I wish I could remember what I saw on that DVD. Oh well, I know Mac doesn't ever put movies back in their original cases. I'll check another. So I reach to open another I might like. Same thing. Another strange DVD with a weird name and I can't find the proper case. How annoying. I pick up one more DVD case and find one labeled Mommy Wants Hard Salami. I finally think gross. I've been rifling through his corn. Then I search through a couple more DVD cases that have the wrong DVDs, but they are movies I have heard of. Then it hit me like a ton of bricks. Mac had strategically formed a spank bank in all of the movie cases that girlfriend would never watch. He never counted on me going through it. I go back a few cases and grab the spicy DVD. I put it in the tray, then with a deep breath and a here we go, I hit play. I look up at the TV and say, Mac, I think something is wrong with your movie. This doesn't look like the normal men. Loud corn music starts to play along with all of the accompanying images. His girlfriend screams OP. What the F? Did you seriously bring corn and expect us to watch it with you? I reply, I thought this was movie title. Mac has all of the cases mixed up and I didn't look at the DVD before I put it in. The looks on their faces and the following silence between the two was worth every cent of that $50 he stole from me. They disappeared outside to one of their cars for a bit. When they came back inside, they told me that something had come up and they were bringing me to my cousin's instead. The whole car ride was more silence between the two. I sat in back, staring out the window, heart racing, hoping he wouldn't realize what I just did to him. Mac drove and his girlfriend stared out the window with a look of frustration and sheer rage buried beneath it the entire time. She was the insecure, jealous, attention-seeking type, and I knew this was going to blow up between them the moment I got out of the car. I'd like to say I learned more about what happened after that, but we never spoke of that day again. I did everything I could to avoid ever going back to Max. To this day, he doesn't know I did it on purpose.